All right. You decide that you are ready. You download the app. You see the cute profiles. You see the shady profiles. You send a message and then wait in the ghosting abyss. Or you get a message that makes you want to jump up in that abyss. And then you're like, enough. You delete the app. And then after a few days, maybe even a few hours, you decide, what the heck? I want to try again and download the same exact app you just deleted again. If you are stuck in this cycle, you are not failing. You are hitting possibly a trigger wall, and that's okay. Let's deconstruct what happens when I finally tried to go digital. Okay. All right. So, I mean, in the opening, that little mini vignette was exactly what it felt like being on the apps for the first time. I um I felt excited and terrified and exhilarated every step of the way. I would sort of, do something that felt brave, download the app. I would upload a picture, put a word in the bio, and then panic and freak out and then delete. And then I'm like, okay, I can come back to it. Follow the steps again, and maybe, swipe on a person, swipe, go through swiping, swipe left, see someone where I was like, oh my God, should I swipe left? Should I swipe right? And then I just, close the app so I wouldn't have to make the decision or delete it. I just I had my like mini I don't like mini panic moments or mini like, oh my God, like my mini freakouts. That's what I want to call it, my mini freakouts. And I would just honor it. I would like, if I had my mini freak out, I'd let myself be where I was, and I'd either close the app or delete it or throw my phone and do other things or keep checking it. Like I just kind of let myself do that. But it was really pretty important for me to sort of let myself do that and have my mini freakouts for any activity or any reason and then delete it. And it was it felt exciting. It felt like milestones. And then, I was like, this is crazy, y'all. Like, or not crazy. I I I had a moment to step back and realize that perhaps this cycle is not compatible with my goals or what I say my desires are. So then I did what your girl does and I got curious. Okay. I started to wonder about my mini freak out moments and started to think about like what were the things that sort of engendered that freak out and or like sort of evoked it. And I realized my mini freakouts would be about things that I was insecure about. Like sometimes I was just telling myself all of these stories about this person's profile or the meaning behind what they messaged me or didn't message me. Um, I and instead of like sitting in judgment, I just like kind of got curious again and asked myself, well, how is this serving me and how is this protecting me? And even though perhaps from an outsider's point of view, this was kind of chaotic or like had all of these judgments around it, it actually was like pretty healthy for me to like do what I needed to do and either close apps or delete them or throw my phone down or drop an audio note with a mini freak out to a friend. Because it was just showing like the parts of me that are like still anxious and scared about this, that I'm willing to do what it takes for her to feel safe and good. And if it means disengaging, it means I am disengaging. Um, and so yeah, that's part of, I kind of moved from panic to curiosity without trying to fix the feeling. And that, it just let me do what I needed to do, like listen to the parts of me that felt a type of way and did whatever she needed. And this was sort of like I would say like the puttering stage, right? Like I was just, feeling it out, seeing how it made me feel and like adjusting accordingly instead of sort of like barreling through and doing what I felt like I should do or what I need to do or what I'm supposed to do. It was like, I'm not doing none of that mess. I'm doing what I want to do in this moment. And I am doing what my body and my nervous system is telling me I need to do in this moment. And sometimes I meant delete, and sometimes I may not. And, I also do want to back up around like some of the patterns I noticed with when I would have these moments. And so sometimes I noticed that this like I'd have those moments when like if I came across somebody that maybe looked like my ex, or sometimes I had these moments when I'm gonna put indecision in air quotes, and it's in air quotes because my gut knew, but because I was engaging in stories or shoulding myself, it appeared as if I was confused. But it would come up when, oh, and not only those stories also kind of existed around scarcity stuff, right? So it would, for example, come up on a profile where someone, like, like I was interested in them. I thought they looked nice and like there's something about them that I liked, but there was something on their profile that was like maybe it was one of my deal breakers, or maybe it was something that I was just like, ugh. Or maybe they just weren't doing enough. Like literally, where's your bio? Like that stuff. And sometimes that's when I'd have my mini freakouts and be like, to do. But the reality is, I knew exactly what the fuck I needed to do. And it felt scary to do it. And I wasn't ready. So I disengaged and pieced out and came back and tried again. And that is good. And that was enough. There is also like sometimes I notice that yeah, honestly, I think a lot of the freakouts were like sort of revealing like mini triggers that I didn't even know I was aware of. Or no, I wasn't even aware of. I didn't realize they were in the room, so to speak. And I wasn't even totally conscious of them. But one of the great things about just letting myself move through this like download, panic, or download trigger, panic delete cycle and then download all over again is like I don't know. I just or I do know. I just have this new relationship with myself, my feelings and my gut where I don't need my feelings to be articulated into a thesis statement in order to honor them. If it just feels off, it just feels off, and I don't even have to understand it. I just need to do what it's asking me to do. And honestly, doing that really helped me feel safe on the dating apps because eventually I stopped deleting them constantly because I let myself be in those places. And I also noticed the things that made me want to literally abandon ship. And then I started either like avoiding those things or literally blocking people that sort of like evoke that for me. And I felt I gave myself permission to do that because remember, we are not equal opportunity nothings. I am an individual, not an institution. I don't owe nobody nothing. And really being able to sit in that and practice that helped me feel safe. And so that's kind of how I moved through that. Um, Something else that helped me move through this like panic delete download cycle was actually deciding to make the first move. And this was terrifying for many reasons. I didn't like previously, I never really typically made the first move. I feel like, internalized patriarchy did its number on me, and I would sit around waiting to be chosen. And that, like, making the first move is directly incompatible with the messages that people who are conditioned as women and girls receive. Like, you need to sit around and wait to be chosen. And that's where your value and all your joy and happiness is going to come from. And so, getting back into the dating scene on the other side, and yes, these are messages I received even as a queer woman, even as a lesbian. Like, the patriarchy don't care. And so, I realize, so that's another thing. I was reflecting on that and I realized, fuck, lesbians all got that same message. Women, we all received that message. And as like a queer woman dating, I just feel like, and I'm just speaking to my personal lived experience. I feel like everyone's waiting for everyone to make the first move because we were all conditioned with the same BS. And that's when I realized, if I want to really experience anything and to experience anything on my terms, I have to make the first move, which I really, really didn't like, but I couldn't find another way around it. I also once I started to accept that as like the reality that I need to make the first move, I realized that actually was like, it's a really a kind, self-honoring thing for me to make the first move, despite how uncomfortable it makes me because it sort of making the first move disrupts the old stories and stuff that I've worked through and I believe release, but just being in the dating world kicks everything back up. But like making the first move cuts through the or talks back at the gremlins around being chosen, right? Like, if I'm literally making the first move, I'm not being chosen. Like, I am doing the choosing. And as a survivor, that is really important to me. I realize when I do the choosing, I have power. I can have power to keep myself safe. I can literally choose, am I going to be in this space or not? It's the decision and the judgment is up to me, not up to somebody else who I don't know, who does not, is not, whose purpose in life is to center me. Like, I was surprised to discover that making the first move not only one makes things possible because I'm a lesbian and we're all waiting for someone to make the first move, but it also just like made me feel safer because I would literally, in making the first move, like I'm deciding who I engage with, but I'm also deciding who I'm not engaging with, like out the bait. Like if I didn't express interest, then it's not fucking happening. And that was really like just thinking about the journey it took to feel comfortable and safe enough to date again. Like that is just really important for me as a survivor. But even with that said, even with finding the safety and the power in making the first move, it was still terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. Like your girl, like even though it was just full stop terrifying. And I got curious again about that terror because it was a low-key terror. And I realized that there's a lot of fear around the worst possible what if, right? And that, for me, the worst possible what if was rejection. The worst possible what if was, wow, if I'm rejected, this is proof that I am unlovable, undesirable, unworthy. Like, are you really trying to catch proof out in these streets? The worst possible what if was just too much to like sort of gave more fake data around like the fear of being too much after putting myself out there because in the space in the agony of the space between like making the first move and waiting for the person to respond if they do, there's so many juicy, awful stories that can be told in that space. And this is all what the worst what ifs were that were getting in the way from me from owning my power and making the first move. So after being curious about that, I was like, okay, I'm choosing to move away from those worst possible what ifs And instead, I'm choosing to lean into the best possible what ifs. Like making the first moves means that I get to choose. Making the first move means I stay safe. Making the first move means I am enough because I am not like I am deciding. And and all of this is true leading into the best what if. All of this is true regardless of whether or not or how the other person responds. That's what leaning into the best what if is. And at the end of the day, leaning into my best what if, it it honestly it's this is why making the first move has become a lot easier for me. And I actually I don't know if I'm at the enjoy it place yet, but at the end of the day, it's about like how I honor my desire. Like if I feel torn about it, if I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should say something or not, or like what should I say in this message? Like I literally drop in and check in with myself and I ask myself like, what am I feeling excited about? Like this person, like what interests me? Like what am I desiring? And when I acknowledge the desire that is within me and that is in the room, it's like once I see it, I can't unsee it. It can't go away. And I feel like for me, once I've had that acknowledgement out of um, a loyalty to that part of me, I have to honor her by expressing her desire. And that is looking like the first move. And so that's sort of like my relationship with it now. Because I'm grounded in, like, I'm making the first move because this is how I honor my desire. I'm not pressed about being rejected. I'm not whatever happens doesn't matter because it's not like, and because it doesn't matter, there's no proof of my worthiness or not, right? Because the reason why I made the first move is to honor my desire and to do something that made me feel safe while honoring my desire. And that's what making the first move does. And that's some powerful shit. Like I want that for me, I want that for you, I want that for everybody. But yeah, that's how I move through the download trigger panic delete cycle and then download again. So are you stuck in that delete cycle I described? If so, download the companion guide linked below for a checklist to use before you open up them apps again. See you next time.